Hi, this is Whitney with PolicyPak software. Recently, we have added a whole lot of new security features to our PolicyPak Cloud Edition, and this video here is going to be a multi-part guide to understanding these new features and making the most of them. All right, so in this section of the video, we're going to be talking about the idea of the Authentication Options admin, as well as all things two-factor authentication. I'm probably going to end up calling that 2FA for a bit because two-factor authentication just takes too long to say. So as far as the Authentication Options admin business, that is essentially an admin who controls the methods by which all other admins get two-factor authentication. To go a little further and to explain that out a little more, it's an admin who decides what the two-factor authentication options are. We have email-based as well as application-based options, and the authentication options admin is the one that gets to choose if everybody else gets both options or just one, and if only one, then which one you're going to get. So this guy here is my authentications options admin, who I already have set up with my application-based 2FA. So now I just got to grab that code as always from my my application, and let's punch this in here. And there we go, we are signed in just fine. So over here at the Company Details tab is where you're going to be managing the two-factor authentication options. First of all, you can manage your own 2FA options here. So if you go and click on your name, go over to two-factor options, and right now I only have application-based two-factor authentication checked. I could choose email-based 2FA, and that would give me an option when I went to sign in. It would give me a drop-down box where I would choose either the email-based option or the application-based option. So once you make that change, you can check or you can turn that on if you want. I am actually not going to do that right now, but that's an option that I have, so I'm going to close this out. The next thing you can do, you can actually manage what kind of authentication methods you want to have incoming company admins have by default. So you can choose just email or just application or both. It's up to you. You choose whichever ones you want and then save it. And then newly created admins will get these options by default. Finally, you can actually restrict the whole company's two-factor authentication methods here. If you go to Edit Customer Level Portal Policies, we'll talk about this one later on. We're going to require 2FA for PPC login. If I click Edit, you see that this here is enabled and that is grayed out. That is because we have turned on two-factor authentication for everyone in an effort to increase security that much more. So down here you can choose the options though. If you want to say that people can only have email-based, then you'll restrict the application-based, which means people would only be allowed to use the email-based 2FA. And the same is true in reverse. If you wanted them to only use application-based 2FA, you would restrict email, because restricting will restrict this specific version. So it means if you restrict email-based, the email base will no longer be available to use. So that's the idea there. Now, let's close this out. When you go to create a new admin, you come over here, you click Company Admin, and you'll enter in, obviously, first name, last name, email, and then you can choose which type of 2FA they get. They'll get either email or application or both. You can also have them be another authentication options admin. There doesn't have to be only one. You could have more than one in the company. We'll talk about notification admin in another section of this video. So once you get done, you create and send the welcome letter. It will take you back here, and the test guy I'm going to use here is John Crane. So when you first create your new user, it pops you over here, and you have some options you can work with. You can turn on the email-based two-factor authentication. So I already set him up with application-based, which is why that's grayed out. And then you can also choose to change some role management here. Again, the notification admin we'll talk about in another section. So let's close this out. And what I want to do, so I've already created this guy, so I could go ahead and get my welcome letter with my password in it and all of that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to log out of the authentication admins option here, and I'm going to log in as John Crane and enter in that password from the welcome letter. And when I click login, it's going to allow me to log in, but it is going to force me to turn on the application-based 2FA before I can go any further. Now, if you, as the authentication options admin, have not restricted your users to one version or the other, then your new admin could abandon the application-based 2FA and instead choose to go with an email-based 2FA. So that is, or they can just go ahead and turn that on for themselves so that they'll have the option every time they sign in, whichever one's more convenient. So here we are as a regular admin, not an authentication options admin. So what we need to do is we're going to set up this. We'll get a one-time password. So we'll go ahead and enter that in. And there we go. So that's where I can now decide. Again, I am not the authentication options admin right now. I'm just choosing my own as John Crane here. So I could choose to turn on email-based as well. I could say, yes, I want to do that. When I do that, I will need to enter in the one-time password that will be sent to this email address. So I'm not going to do this right now. I can just say, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to abandon that option. And then while they can click on role management, they will not be able to assign themselves any sort of role. So that's that. That is all things two-factor authentication. One last note before we move into the next section of the video. If a user gets created and there is no version of the authentication method selected, then email-based 2FA will be turned on by default. So that's just something, a little note for you to be aware of. All right, let's move on to the next section. This is just a quick section in the middle here to show you one of the other features of being an authentications options admin. Because I am that authentication options admin, I can do this editing customer level portal policies. So when I click on that, that's where I would go to change the two-factor authentication options here. This is where I would go to change this. But you may have noticed in the other section that you saw this other one, require automatic log off on idle. When you click on this and go to edit it, you can change this. So you can actually disable this, but you also have the option to change the timeout. So if you think that 15 minutes is not enough time or too much time, you can change that. Or if you do not want to have a log off on idle, you can disable this. That is going to be less secure, but that is up to you. So that is just another quick little feature of being that authentication options admin. In this section of the video, we are going to talk about the idea of the notification options admin role. Now, like with the authentication options admin, the first registered user, typically the primary in our records, is the one that is considered the notification options admin. I'm going to shorten that, start calling it just the notification admin from now on. The notification admin is the one who gets to decide who receives emails when certain actions take place. So you can have multiple notification admins if you'd like, but what they can do is come over here to company details and go to edit notification configuration. Now we're going to add a rule, and there are several things we're going to choose here. First of all, what action do we want to hear about? Do we want to hear about certain specific actions? Do we want to hear about all actions perhaps? You'll pick that. Then you'll determine when which user does this action. So you can say one specific user if you want to, or admin rather, or you could choose whenever any company admin creates a policy, then I want myself to receive an email notification. Now, this is the only notification option, so while there is a drop down, that's the only choice there. So you can make these choices and determine what warrants an email, who triggers that particular email, and then who receives the email. So that is what the notification admin does. So let me close out of here. As I have mentioned in other parts of the video, there are, if I go to edit someone, they can be a notification options admin if you want them to, which is to say if you do want to create multiple notification admins, you do it by editing the users right here. So that's that on the notification option admins idea. In this section of the video, we are going to talk about IP address restriction or whitelisting. So when I come over here to company details, I will have the opportunity to choose those login restrictions if I am the authentications options admin. So I'm going to click on login restrictions, and I can add an IP address range that I want to either white or blacklist. Remember that whitelisting an IP address range effectively blacklists everything else. So make sure you don't accidentally lock yourself or others out. When I go to add, I can either, again, white or blacklist an IP address range. So I'm going to choose to whitelist in this case, and I know what my IP address is, so I'm going to put in a range that includes it. So give me just a second. I'm just going to copy and paste. It's a little quicker and easier. And I'll tell it OK, great, and OK. Now, that's all fine. When I sign out and I go to sign back in, I'm going to get hit with the two-factor authentication. I'll grab that from my application here. Let's see. There we go. All right, and that's all fine and dandy. We were still able to get in as expected because that range included the IP address range that I am on. However, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to get on a different network, which of course will give me a different IP address, and I won't be able to log in anymore. So I'll pause the video for a moment, and then we'll come right back, and you'll see the effects. Let me go ahead and sign out, and now we'll pause. All right, and we are back. I am on a different network now, and so when I come over here and I try to log in, ooh, I got a message letting me know that my IP address is restricted. Now, if I go back and I log back onto my original network, I will be in fine shape and will be able to log in no problem. Let's go look at that real quick, and then that'll be the end of this video. All right, back on my original network. Let's go ahead and try to log in now. And great news, it's asking for my authentication code. So I'll grab that one more time here. And we're able to get in just fine. So that is the way to go about restricting logon based on whitelisting or blacklisting IP addresses or IP address ranges. All right, that covers the new PolicyPak cloud security features. So I hope this video helps you out. Thanks so much.